Good day, all. It's TurboDave here, Performance Corner. Today we're going to be talking about 370Zs and headers. Headers, you put them on, you have might make a couple horsepower and I know some claim more. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. I have seen some serious variables depending on the header that's installed on the car, though. I know at one point Stillen's headers were only producing 1 to 2 horsepower. I think they were pretty straightforward about that, straight up about it. One side note that I did find with the Stillen headers on the 370Z was it made we had a car come in. So let me back up here. We had a car come in. I had a header issue. Somehow the guy had a shop somewhere else install some Stillen headers. They were actually 350Zs, and instead of calling them in and sending it back, exchanging them, they made it work. Oddly enough, I have no idea how they made it fit, because the angle's different. They bolt to the heads, but the angle's different where it bolts to the pipes. They literally bolted it up and made it on there due to the flex joints. But the car was stock height, it hadn't been lowered, and it was literally scraping the ground when you go over dips. So we had swapped the headers out, and after that everything fit good. The guy took the car back. He came back maybe not even a month later. He was like, oh, I'm gonna get a supercharger. Sure enough, he came back a couple weeks later, put a supercharger on his car, and just trying to get the AFRs right, ended up making, not even pushing the car all the way, man, ended up making like 440 horsepower. They had the Stillen headers, Stillen catback exhaust, but the catback exhaust wasn't the big deal because it, done that plenty of times. But the headers was the one thing that changed. Most of the time putting superchargers on or whatever, we never put headers on. But these headers made a difference. Most of the time, most of the superchargers like under 400 horsepower. This was right at 440 or 445. And it wasn't even trying to make horsepower, just trying to get the AFRs and the timing where it should be. Made all this power. It was really weird. So there's one time where you see headers really do their job, and more than likely the headers were a little larger diameter. So on a stock engine, you probably see just a couple of horsepower gain. What's happening is it's outflowing the engine until you get something in there that's moving more air. By the same token, on another 370Z, customer had put aftermarket headers on, thinking that a header's a header. Bought some really inexpensive ones, eBay specials, and took it to the dyno, had it running, went over everything. The car ran okay. It didn't run great as it did with the stock manifold, but I thought, well, maybe it's just needing some touch up. So took it in, and it wouldn't even make it was like stock horsepower. It was like 275, running all this, running the 8 pounds boost it was supercharged, so we're making 275 on a supercharger. Went round and round. I was like, it's got to be the headers. So he had new headers put on it. Got the headers on, thing went super lean. Retuned it. Once we got that done, we had done a couple other things to it, moved the maps and air filter and stuff like that. He was doing, I think it's somewhere on Instagram, but he was doing like 480 or 485, somewhere in that number. So it was, 200 horsepower plus difference. So now you get the idea of putting a wrong header on a car can really restrict what you're trying to accomplish. Even in the NA terms, that header would have been restrictive, just judging by the way how much it restricted this car. So don't skimp out. When you think that you're gonna get something cheap, more than likely it's not going to be the direction that you want to go in, even though it is cheap. So make sure you get a quality header, and the primary tube size, I mean, realistically, the whole design, you know, where it enters, make sure that it's not smaller than the exhaust head port on the head. So make sure the primary diameter is good size. You know, if you're skeptical, measure it against the stock manifold. See if is it larger, is it, you know, smaller. What's it all about? And the collector, you know, at the collector, you know, if you have 4 1 3/4 inch, you know, pipes, and then they're going into like a 2-inch collector, it's gonna choke it down. It's just a matter of where it chokes it down. So be mindful of what you're putting on your car, because when you're talking about putting a header on a 370Z minimal, you're talking 5-hour job. You know, if everything comes apart fine and everything goes back together fine, and all the mating surfaces get cleaned easily, you know, so 5-hour job for a set of headers, you know, you're in the $500+ range, you know, $600 range in labor, not including parts. So even if the headers are $200 and you paid to say somebody only charged you $500, so you get 500 plus 200, you got $700 into it, and then you get into, well, now I need to change the headers again. The headers that he got the second time were like $800 or $1,000. Just say it's another $500, so you're into $1,300 to $1,500 already. So you're into over $2,000 when you could have been into you know, $1,300 to $1,500 off the bat instead of $2,100 or thereabouts. So be mindful and don't waste money, you know, because you're never going to be able to recoup that money by selling those parts. If anything, you might be able to recoup a little bit of the money for the parts, but you're not going to be able to recoup the labor, you know. So unless you're doing it yourself or something like that, but still, labor is labor. You're never going to be able to recoup it because that's labor spent time. So just be mindful of the headers you put on and what you're doing, and build a idea of what you're going for before you do it, and take all the measurements. You know, ask the questions from the seller or the manufacturer, whoever you're buying your headers from, you know, and ask them, you know, is it larger, and know what you're taking off, you know the diameters and all that stuff, so you can do an educational comparison. So there's some horsepower numbers that vary with the headers. So hope you liked it. Hope it was informational enough, and or informative enough rather, and you learned something. So if you like it, please leave in the comments below. Hit the subscribe button. And this is Turbo Dave here at Performance Corner. Hope you enjoy your day. Have a good one. Thank you. Bye.